So this is a high point I wanted to come to in last week's video to show Campbeltown in all its glory. So it is a spectacular view, and generations of Campbeltonians would have come up here to sit on a little bench at the end there and admire this view, including my own grandfather. So if you saw our last video, you'll know we're staying at Machrihanish campsite and visiting the town we still call home, Campbeltown. This incidentally is what they call the cutting, which is the route that the train used to take, Machrihanish light railway used to take to collect coal. Later on they took fare-paying passengers. You see that bench behind me there? Little park bench. This wee area is called the Mill Dam. We used to walk up and down here to go to school every day, and there used to be a group of old guys used to hang about there. Probably the same age I am now, actually, a bit older maybe. And they used to call them the Mill Dam Midges because they're always hanging about there. Lovely old guys. Used to chat to us, 10, 11 years old. Used to have a little chat to us on the way past. So we moved here to Campbeltown when I was 10 years old, and it would be fair to say I was a strange kid. So I was very much the kid standing in the playground on his own, staring into space. I've never been able to figure out if I was introverted or self-contained. Still don't know to this day. But anyway, in the summer of 1977, when I was 15 years old, I walked down this road, as I had done many times to go to school, with my school bag on my back, but this time I had sandwiches and a flask in it. And I walked down this road to get on a bus to go to the place that would change my life forever. And I want this week's video to be a tribute to that place and the men who worked there. And I'd only finished school on the Thursday, I think, and on the Monday I'm walking down here with my school bag still on my back to get on a bus to start an apprenticeship at Campbeltown Shipyard. Now I knew one of the bus pickup points was down here, what used to be Bobby Bones' shop they call it. And as I walked down I could see the men starting to congregate, to get on the bus. And I had no confidence. I was too frightened and nervous to stand with them. So I waited until I could see the bus coming. I timed it so it would arrive just as the bus arrived. Now we knew that I knew that the cost of the bus come off their wages, but I was told there was an understanding that if you're an apprentice, as I was going to be, you could get on the bus and it'd come off and you get paid. But as I stepped on the bus, one of the guys shouts, "Oh, have you paid your bus?" And I was so naive, I turned round and started to get off again, apologising, And the guys all started shouting, "Get on the bus, you idiot, get on." And that was my introduction to Campbeltown Shipyard. So ironically enough, the bus on the way to the shipyard went past this school, my primary school, where a few short years ago I'd stood in this playground on this very spot, trying to pretend I was somewhere else. Well, actually, I probably stood in every spot in this playground because I was busy trying to look like I had somewhere to go, like some sort of maniac. So this is day 2, just because it's a fair old hike to the shipyard and I didn't think I could do it yesterday. So the bus trundles on past what was the old Hall Hotel. Now, these were the kindest, friendliest men in the world to me. But, it was 1970s industrial Scotland, and if I can put it this way, it'd be hard pushed to find a choir boy amongst them, So every Friday at lunchtime, the Hall Hotel used to just fill the bar, pints of Tennent's. Everybody drank Tennent's lager, I don't know why. And the guys would pile over here in whatever cars were owned, or, taxis sometimes. And they'd scoop as much down them as they could. So the bus would wind its way along, this is the left-hand side of the Loch Low Eskimo. And the odd thing about Campbeltown, on both sides of the loch are effectively mansion houses, And I think it came from the whisky days, the whisky barons built them. But anyway, it winds its way along here over to Trench Point at the mouth of the loch, where stood by far and away the biggest building in Campbeltown, which was the shipyard. So I'm going to have to stand here in what is the wreck of the old canteen, because the wind's howling and I don't think any audio will stand that and just use bits of B-roll. So anyway, the shipyard, on average, it employed about 100 men, say. It was a small shipyard, and they made their name building big steel fishing boats, trawlers and seine netters. I mean, they could stay out longer, these boats, they could carry more fish, and a lot of the top skippers at the time were buying them and breaking records with them. So there's real pride in the town that these things were getting made here. Anyway, they were very successful, and as a result, they took on 14 apprentices that year, 1977. Young boys that were going to be platers and welders and engineers, marine fitters, I think, really, which is what I came to do, and joiners and so on. So the bus comes down the slope into the shipyard and it stops in front of what I think at the time was the biggest steel building I'd ever seen. And the main bit, the tall bit, covered the slipway here. Now, unfortunately, for some reason, part of the slip's been filled in, but it actually stretched from this side to this side. And on the left-hand side was a plate shop where they cut and formed the steel plates that were going to form the hull of the boat. And here is the foundations for I think what was a CNC machine, still there. And down here is the foundation for the big moving plate, which was used to carry steel structures out into the middle of the slipway where they could be lifted up and fitted on the vessel. And then on the right-hand side of the slipway was where I was to spend the next 4 or 5 years, engineering shop, you know. And down one end was the store, foreman's office was about there. And then as you walk through the shop, what I remember is the smell of machine oil, you know, band saws, welding machines. And up at the far end is the foundations for where the 2 lathes were. One on the right-hand side, one on the left-hand side. And then as you walked through there, you came to one of the sets of steps that took you down onto the slipway, and then the toilets, and I think the electrician shop were at the far end. Now it's all tiny now, but I remember them being huge, you know. So anyway, us young boys all got split into the groups we're going to, platers, welders and so on. And I remember the charge hand taking us in through the door at the front of this big steel building. The noise was phenomenal. Welders gouging V's in to fill with weld. Just incredible. I've never seen anything so tall in my life as one of these vessels. So as I say, unfortunately, a lot of the slip's been filled in, but if you'd been here all these years ago, looking up the way, you'd have seen a keel and the bare ribs of a steel hull, and the plate starting to be dogged and hammered into place round the ribs. And then if you look down the slipway here, again all filled in, you'd see a fully plated boat and the outfitting starting to go on, the engines getting fitted, the piping going in, a lot of painting going on there as well. And that's the way they did it. Top end of the slipway was wheelhouses, next down would be a hull getting plated, next down would be a hull getting outfitted, and then tied up with the quayside would be a vessel getting the final touches put to it really before the skippers and the crew came and took them away. I mean, a real production line it was. I mean, the thing is, if you were stood here, these vessels would be towering above you, just filled this space. I can't believe it's so small now, this space. They've been crammed in here. So I learned so many life lessons from these men. I remember occasionally a fishing boat would drop off a couple of boxes of fish, and a lot of the men would, you know, run down the quayside and grab a few, you know. And I remember my time was served, so I was getting a tradesman's wage, and but I was still saving my mum and dad. And I remember standing next to one of the guys watching the men going for these fish and saying, you know, look at them like seagulls round these boxes. And only because I'd heard other people saying it. But he said, the thing is, son, he said, that, you know, you're living with your mummy and daddy and you still turn up here on a Monday morning skint and you're on full wage. He said, these men are bringing up families and paying rent on the same wage that you're spending every weekend. He says, for them, that fish is a meal or two they don't have to pay for. I never ever forgot that. And all I can say is it changed my life, this place. The men here, I'll be forever grateful to. For me, it was like I'd left the world of boys and entered the world of men. That's what it was like, and it was life-changing for me. My dad has often said that I walked in here on a Monday a boy and come out on a Friday as a man, you know. And some of the things that happened might sound a bit cruel now, you know, but to me it made me feel like I was part of something at last. I was somewhere I belonged in this shipyard, you know. I mean, I think in the first day I had a couple of guys chasing me through the joiner shop shouting, give me a kiss, you know. And I remember standing on the deck of one of the boats that was at the quayside with a couple of the men, and this guy walks up and he says, you're one of the new starts, aren't you? And I said, yeah. And he says, I'm here to talk to you about the protection money. And I'm like, oh no, you know, I thought maybe this kind of thing would happen in a big shipyard in the Clyde, but not here, you know. And then he says, yeah, I'm here to talk to you about your protection money. How much do you want? And of course, I realised then all the guys around about me were laughing their heads off. And it was like all the time. It's just like, laugh a minute in this place. But if you really want to know more about Campbeltown Shipyard and the people who worked here, there's a website called Top Skipper's Choice. and it describes the shipyard and the men who work there. Sometimes it's got their own biographies and their own stories, you know, and tells you all about the shipyard, and it's well worth a look. And I only left here after my time was out. I was a time served to make enough money to buy a fishing boat and come back here, and just got waylaid for 40 years. So that's it. So I still remember the sadness as I drove up here for the last time in my little Mini 850. They were looking for voluntary redundancies because the shipyard had sort of had hard times for a little while, and I took it. I got £900, I think, including my holiday pay, and set off up this little path here, and a whole different career. But you know what? I've got this place to thank for it. This gave me the confidence, the bedrock, the belief in myself that I could do anything. That's what this place is to me. Thank you. By the way, I really did start to lose it there, and then I started laughing at myself, and I thought, thank goodness none of these men were there to see that, because they would have been ripping it right out of me right now. So that's our wee tribute to Campbeltown. But I just wanted to tell you something that happened yesterday that kind of really describes this place, I think. So we picked up the bus at the gates of the Macrahanish campsite, as you can do. Walks on, driver says, "Aye, how are you doing today?" Which is a fairly typical greeting here. Only 2 people on the bus. Anyway, stops further along, picks a couple of other people up, and they both have a little chat with us, you know, just a couple of pleasantries. I think that's the thing. It would be considered rude here not to share at least a few pleasantries with a stranger. It really would, you know. And imagine my shock when I went to work in London for a few years, you know. But anyway, we were going to get the bus back in the afternoon, standing at the wee bus stop, and a bus pulls in, not our bus, it pulled a bit further past us. And the driver jumps out and comes back to tell us that our bus will be the next one along. Now it turns out it's the same driver who picked us up that morning. Obviously, well, a couple of tourists who'd picked us up from a campsite and decided he'd better keep us informed, you know. Was that not just incredible? Anyway, that's our wee tour guidey thing, yeah?
Yep.
So, heading home now. We've got an appointment in Inverness, something we've got to make. So we're battering on. So all we have to do now is say cheerio to Cleo and Charlie and Joey. And we'll see you soon. We hope everybody has a good week. I think the next thing I've got planned is, well, I'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
See what happens. Okay then, bye.
Bye.